From the legendary Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley, California, welcome to Cocktails with Bright Antenna Records. Our guests this week, Zane and Lyz of Second Line Vinyl, Oakland's new record pressing plant.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cocktails with Bright Antenna. I am Tiffanie DeBartolo from Bright Antenna Records, and we're coming to you from the Sweetwater Music Hall in Mill Valley, California. And today, making cocktails with us, we've got Zane Howard and Lyz Luke, who are from Second Line Vinyl, and we're going to talk a lot about what that is in just a moment. And we've got Pat Spurgeon, musician, drummer for Rogue Wave. What else did I say you were?
A dad.
Composer, a dad, a neighbor, husband, lots and lots of things.
Hats.
Hats, and he wears hats. DJ, you're a DJ as well. Yeah, a vinyl DJ. That is the theme of today. So let's get right into it and talk to you guys first. Zane, you're the CEO of and the founder of Second Line Vinyl, which is the first vinyl plant in Oakland since 1937, which is pretty remarkable. And as we know, vinyl has made a huge resurgence right now. And as someone who runs a record label, I know that it's really hard to get vinyl made in a swift and proficient manner. And you're changing that. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how and why you're doing this?
Sure. I think it's a kind of a long story of why, I guess. How we're doing it is the easier story, I guess. We're building the first pressing plant since 1937 in the Bay Area. There's a huge market here for it, and there's a need definitely for supporting the independent artists and labels in the area. In terms of how we're doing it, we're building technology, not only just making machinery to make records, but it's the technology to manage the whole process. That vinyl records haven't had innovation in 30 years since the internet's been invented. So there's a lot of opportunities to bring in efficiencies in developing and making it easier for those artists and those labels to have access to manufacturing, to have quicker turnaround times, to improve quality levels. So if you were to write on a whiteboard all the problems that we can fix, we wouldn't have enough room.
Don't we know
but we're trying to pinpoint and focus on those areas that we can actually impact the whole category, not just the local as well.
So you're essentially revolutionizing the vinyl world.
Not because we're revolutionaries, which I think we are, but because it needs it, and we know how to do it, sort of. So
yeah. And Pat, you're a big fan of vinyl, yes?
I am. I love it.
And I've seen your record collection.
I brought a picture. We can zoom in on a camera. It's just part of it.
How many records do you think you own?
Over 3,000 for sure.
Wow. And do you remember the first record you ever bought?
Yes. I bought Kiss Hotter Than Hell at JCPenney's with pennies, because I had a big penny collection. So I counted out like 700 pennies. I think it was about $7. Yeah, so Kiss. Wow. And I don't have that specific record, but I have that record still.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Do you guys collect vinyl?
I started more recently. I'm guilty of kind of leaning on my ex-boyfriend when we were dating for his vinyl collection. But more recently, I've started acquiring my own, and it's sizing up pretty quickly.
And you're young, so you probably weren't around for the original vinyl collections that we did. Yeah. How about you? Are you a big music fan, or are you just
a huge music fan? That's why I'm doing this. I'm not a musician or an music industry person. I guess I am now.
Yeah, you are. Like it or not.
I'm a fan, and I love particularly independent artists, and I think the world needs more music and needs to support those artists. So
yeah, we agree. That's sort of why we got into the music business as well. Just curious, who are some of your favorite artists, or the music that you grew up listening to that really made a huge impact on who you are? I'm going to ask you that
That's
too.
That's a good question. I I grew up in the Southwest and in Lubbock, Texas, high school, and exposed to all types of music. My dad was in a mariachi band.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I have a lot of taste. I love good music.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
I probably tend towards, like if I was to start as a teenager today, I'd probably be a punk rock dude that listens to rock and, you know, other good music. But I wouldn't say I'm a genre snob or specific.
Right.
Being from Lubbock, I would imagine that Buddy Holly would be in your
I do love Buddy Holly. And that's how I love real country music.
How about heavy metal? Because I know when I was in high school, heavy metal was very big in Texas.
I do have a moment every time that takes me back to high school. Every time I hear Guns N' Roses, Paradise City, I'm sitting in a Camaro, my friend's Camaro, with a tape of Paradise City playing while we're driving to Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah,
So
that's very similar to my high school memory of Guns N' Roses. Because this is called Cocktails at Bright Antenna, how about we start making some cocktails while you tell us about your first, your music loves.
All right.
I will
This
start.
might be distracting with the clinking.
Yeah.
Zane will be making what he calls La Solamente Margarita. 1 part fresh squeezed lime juice, 1 part agave syrup, 1.5 to 2 ounces of quality reposado tequila, and a splash of Cointreau. Give it a good shake, pour over fresh ice, and garnish with lime.
Yeah. So I have been a music lover forever. Do you want me to start like from what I grew up on or what I do now?
Just curious what you grew up on.
So I'm Indian. I know I look very Latina. Even the Indians think I'm Latina. But I was forced to listen to my parents' terrible music in Malayalam that I didn't understand the language to, which is probably why it was so terrible. But I went the complete opposite way, or I would just listen to punk rock. And I grew up as a punk rock kid. And then I started getting more into hip hop. A Tribe Called Quest was introduced to me. That was my jam. But yeah, I used to grow up listening to the Survival of the Fattest compilations, like any band that was coming through 924 Gilman. I grew up in LA though, but I made it down there. That was kind of what I grew up on. And I've always kind of been a snob when it came to production, which is why I love vinyl so much. It's just that, like, the quality of the sound means a lot to me. I think I always love using the Coke versus Pepsi analogy. Like, there's the Coke versus Pepsi challenge where people would take a sip of Coke and a sip of Pepsi. Most people would pick Pepsi as their favorite. But if you have to drink the whole bottle, you would choose a Coke.
He's making margaritas, by the way.
Nice.
I think everyone always chooses Coke, right?
For the whole bottle, but the sip is very sweet with Pepsi Overs. So for me, I want to drink the whole bottle. Like, I'm really into the whole album. I don't want just like your quick fad of a single. I want something I could listen to 20 times on repeat, not get fatigued.
You know,
by it.
I totally agree with you, and I bet you do too, because you grew up listening to albums as well. And it's something that, being in the music business, things are changing, and sometimes it's just about one song, and it kind of bums me out. Like, I accept it because that's the way the business is going, and you know, that's what the kids want, and you know, we give them what they want. But for me, when I can find a record that from beginning to end tells me a story that I want to hear over and over again, man, that just it's
because they don't have a format to listen to it in that way. So the album, the vinyl record is the way you listen to it intentionally. You can't hit shuffle.
Even more so with cassette.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're talking about vinyl, but I've been listening to tapes in my car just because it takes a long time to fast forward, and you always crap shoot if you're going to stop at the right spot.
Yeah.
Do you want to shake that like a Polaroid?
Oh, shake.
Do it.
That's not so loud. Maybe he was dying to shake that thing. What style of punk rock did you start with?
Again, it was the Survival of the Fattest compilations. That was a huge part of it.
So what is on that? I don't know that compilation. Like
NOFX, Tilt. I don't know if Green Day actually made it on there, but like Rancid, like those types of bands.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm an 80s kid, and I love me some Talking Heads too. And I remember when I was a little kid, someone was making fun of them. There was the song Once in a Lifetime, and I stopped. It was like an older person too. And I was like, no, I like that song. And I remember I got into an argument with an adult for the first time who was making fun of the Talking Heads, and I think that's when I discovered my passion for music.
I feel like that's probably how I discovered mine too, is fighting with people about songs when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go to bat for my bands.
Yes, always. Still do. Zane, while you're making those, I'm going to ask you a question. Your background, like you said, you don't have a background in the music industry. You used to make sausage, correct?
Well, I didn't make the sausage, but I was. My background, I have an MBA in marketing. I had a business degree, undergrad in math and science, math and economics, information systems.
Wow.
And started my first job out of grad school was for Nielsen as an analyst, marketing analyst, and I worked in brand marketing for a dog biscuit company, Milk
Wow.
Bone. And then 2 years off, bartended for a little while, and then I came back
Hence the margaritas.
to corporate in terms of brand and product development for a local salami deli meat company, Columbus. So yeah, I love things round and tasty, and it's interesting. There's actually, I see some correlation between vinyl making and salami in terms of
Being roundest.
well, not maybe there's a reason the round, but in terms of you can't speed it up or slow it down, it won't come out the same. It's the same with making records. If you try to tweak the process to make it go faster, heat faster, cool faster, or whatever, the record doesn't sound the same. It's not as good quality. So there's this sweet point of like, it takes time to make salami right, and if you fuck that up, it's not going to taste the same, and it may not even be the same compositor or same with music. It's like if you rush cutting the lacquer or plating or pressing the record, it's not going to sound good.
If you rush mastering it or mixing it, that's
or producing it or recording it or
or
writing
learning
it.
how to play your instrument live.
Right.
Yeah.
So
You rush your computer, come on, play that backing track.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I digress.
Did we get to taste these?
Ooh, that's really good. Yeah, we have. I need to make more. I didn't make enough, so I'm gonna do another small batch.
That looks like enough, but
We can split it.
I don't want to.
Oh, you need one more. I see what you're saying.
I can do that. Okay.
So,
Wait, what was your first record?
oh, well, I can't exactly remember the first record I bought, but what was really cool about my vinyl childhood was that my dad knew I was hugely into music, and so he would stop, like once a week, he would stop at the local record store on his way home from work, and he would pick random albums off the shelf. He knew nothing about music, modern music, and he would pick random records off the shelf and buy them and bring them home for my sister and I. And everything from, like, one of the first ones I remember is Pink Floyd, The Wall.
You
Blondie,
judge it by the cover?
Just judge it by the cover. Blondie records. I remember some Billy Joel records. Debbie Boone, which I loved at the time. So it was like a lot of eclectic stuff that I listened to, and it was kind of in the age of disco as well. So there was a lot of discos, Bee Gees, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just more of anything I could get my hands on. I was listening to.
That was one of the first record collection I got my hands on as a kid. Was one of my older cousins. Like, she decided to go, not be part of popular music, and so she gave us their whole collection. I remember we had the Bee Gees. We had Donny Osmond when he was like a teenage boy.
I had a lot of
we
Donny
had like the
Osmond
Carpenters
records.
and like all these. It was like, it's right outside of my that's not music I listened to growing up, but they're like the 5-10 years before that, they were the ones. So that was my first exposure to like that vinyl record of the Saturday Night Fever.
Yep.
Flipping that over.
Well, and I remember during that time too, like, you didn't know what genres were, so anything was exciting to listen to. I just loved anything I could get my hands on.
Isn't that amazing how you were so open when you were a kid, and then you get older, and especially if you work in the industry, you should try to keep your views a little bit broad, but you really get you get to know what you like,
Yeah.
you know, and you don't stray too far from it.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah,
It is.
actually, I started my whole series, Undercover Presents, is to get people away from that pattern. So what we do is we take classic influential albums and reinterpret them with a local band doing their own spin-off of each song. And each band
Such
is
a brilliant idea.
totally different genre. So for example, right now we're in the recording studio for a Tribe Called Quest Midnight Marauders. But we have a full orchestra, we have a Latin band, a reggae band, a soul funk outfit, an electronic version, like all doing their own takes. So for the audience members, they might be coming in because they like hip hop, or if we do Joni Mitchell, they'll come in because they like Joni Mitchell, but all of a sudden they're going to be served like heavy metal or Afrobeat or klezmer music. And it really forces people to try something new, but you lure them in with something familiar and then you spoon feed them all these local bands of all these different genres. And I make them take a pledge to go see these different bands again within the next year, and they do.
That's really cool. What are some other, I guess, albums? Or can you call it an album that you're making? Yeah. What are some other ones that you've done?
Yeah, so we paid tribute to 15 albums so far. So it's a really wide range, like Black Sabbath, Lauryn Hill, Nick Drake,
Wow.
Bob Dylan. We've done tributes to Nina Simone, Ray Charles. And Sly and the Family Stone was probably one of our biggest shows. And Green Day also. We actually got the members of Sly and the Family Stone to come out to the Fox Theater. We got the mayor of Oakland to declare it Sly and the Family Stone Day.
Brilliant.
It was amazing. And it meant so much for them because they weren't really like well received here in the Bay Area because it was the days of the Grateful Dead and people wanted like a bunch of hippie stoner music to sit back to.
Wow, that's
not a
interesting.
dance band.
Like, could you imagine people just being like, "Oh, Sly and the Family Stone"?
Yeah. But Bill Graham like noticed that and he sent them over to the East Coast. So they actually got more notoriety on the East Coast. For them to come back and like get praise from the city of Oakland meant so much for them. And it was so sweet. Like I literally saw them choking up with tears when it was all happening. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, I think it's time for us to get our cocktails, right?
Yes.
I'll pass this down. Can you tell us why you chose a margarita today? We always let the artist choose the drink we're going to have.
Sure. Yeah. And, thank you for calling me an artist.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
a cocktail
You're an artist of
tonight.
vinyl.
Yes. So I had my first alcoholic beverage when I was 35, and I grew up in New Mexico. And so as a 35-year-old, you have a job and you have access to purchase good alcohol. And so I just remember the first time, this was the second day I started drinking. We had tequila, my first taste of tequila. And I remember drinking it, and it was Don Julio 1942. And I was like, this is so smooth. And it just, I don't know, the senses and the agave or whatever reminded me of home. And so I just kind of latched onto tequila as my alcoholic beverage of choice. And so from that day forward, over the last 10 years of alcohol consumption,
I've been alcoholism.
Did you ever overdo it to the point where you just like, I mean, did you ever drink yourself into oblivion and you on tequila and you just couldn't take it anymore? Obviously not.
No, I've never couldn't take it anymore. But I'd get to the point where I didn't want to drink anything for a day or so. But also helps being a big guy. I'm 2 meters tall and
let's put it in perspective. You are 6 LPs and a 45 tall.
Correct, exactly. Wow. I'm exactly six LPs stacked on top of the 45.
That's good to know.
Yeah. You're 6'7"?
I am. Yes. Yeah.
It's tall.
Math.
The tall people on the end today.
It's meant to be.
Can I ask you why you didn't drink until you were 35? And I ask because I didn't drink until I was 34.
Okay.
Not one sip.
Yeah, neither. I did have some sips when I was 34, but
Dabble.
my first Kona longboard beer at the bar when I was 35. I grew up Mormon, and so it was for religious reasons, and I'm one of those guys that if you're committed, you commit. Like, yeah. So
I understand.
That was my.
And have you looked back since?
Looked back
Yes.
in terms of
like no looking back. You're on it.
Oh no,
you're
yeah.
on the alcohol ride now.
Me too. I love alcohol in the sense of because I also went to culinary school for a year. So when I took between my 2 corporate gigs, In the city of San Francisco, I was bartending, and I went to City College for culinary school for a year.
Wow.
So, and to me, this kind of brings it all back to vinyl. Is my passion is experiencing humanism, and to me, humanism's most human experiences are music and food, and I think drinks are in there too. And so that's what I want to do the rest of my life is either food or music. And so I started creating jobs and businesses, ideas around those things.
I think that's a really beautiful way to live your life in general. I mean, to me, I think you can make anything art. I think you should make anything art. And I think that everything you do in life could be art. And making a drink is art. And making vinyl is art. And making music is obviously art. But, you know, being a friend is art. And being a husband or a wife or a dad. So, you know, you're lucky that you get to do that.
Yeah. Everybody
and that
can
you
do it.
recognize it.
You just have to have the balls to try.
Yeah, it's true. It really is. I mean, obviously, you think there's an art to making vinyl, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
What do you think that is?
Well, it's a community too. Like when I first started, it was all about, you know, the reason I did this.
This
Let's
is
have a drink.
really
I
good,
know,
by the
cheers.
way.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Award winning. I said I was only going to drink a
Award
sip,
winning.
but it's really good.
And that's philosophy. Is like if you're gonna do it well.
Do it well, exactly.
Or find someone that can. So, to me, the way this business idea started is when I went on business trips, I'd Google dive bar live music like that. That's the experience I wanted to have. And so every time I'd go to these dive bars in Indiana or Ohio or Pittsburgh or Orlando, and I'd go into these dive bars, and I experienced some of the most amazing musical experiences that I've had with, you know, 4 other people in the bar. You know, 3 of them were from the next band, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, I know people that pay $20 to see this show. I'm like, how do I help those people? And then at the end, they open up the suitcase and go, hey, buy a CD. And I'm like, I'll give you $40, but I don't want a CD because I don't have a CD player. And so it started me going like, how do I help solve that problem? And so I created a pyramid, and Liz always says pyramids are very corporate and all that stuff. But it's like, how do we solve that problem? And I created this pyramid that solves the solution. Is artists, and you guys would know this part, is you start out the top, you create your voice, you figure out who you are, you create write your lyrics, you practice and become an exceptional artist. Then you have a brand, so people know who you are, and then you start to play and get your voice heard in terms of distributing yourself, whether it's through YouTube or through playing in shows at Sweetwater or wherever it is to create your audience. And then at the bottom, you need to have your audience support you.
Right.
And the support of those audiences through buying tickets at the show and merchandise, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're lucky, you get licensing deals or these other things, which you guys are, is your label as you're trying to do for your artist. But at the end of the day, the fans want to support you. They want a product.
Yeah.
And so that's where I said, I'm a product guy. I understand that. And I love artists, so I'll dedicate my life to creating products for these artists so they make money. And I said, just build a pressing plant, because that's the hardest thing to do in the world, and it'll help. And that's how I started.
Yeah. I mean, as an artist, I mean, that has to mean something to you, right?
Absolutely.
You struggle with all this stuff.
Well, first of all, a musician struggles with getting something made and then getting somebody to buy it. Generally, artists will give it away. Hey, you want my album? And they'll give it away freely, because it's all about, I think musicians are always trying to promote to their detriment, because they're not asking, and their friends, if they are friends, should go, I would like to buy that. And I actually started doing that myself. I used to go ahead and download stuff when Napster happened. I was downloading stuff like crazy. I found stuff that you would never ever get. But then I decided at a certain point that I would always say, it's okay because I play music and everyone's downloading what I do.
Right.
And but then after a while, I was like, that's no way to. That's like saying, it's like a little kid pointing their finger. Well, he did it and she did it, and So I decided to start buying records, and not just at record stores. I try to make sure I go to the show and buy a record there at whatever their price they're charging, because it supports them. They've already purchased that, or
Right,
they're
it goes in their pocket.
that's their money right there on the table. So you buy it, it goes to them for their tour. So yeah, I fully endorse that making of product, because it seemed like, man, without vinyl, we would really be screwed, because it'd be no
Everything
physical
digital.
product. And T-shirts are okay, but like, you know, it's really nice that vinyl is popular. You know it's popular when you watch a television show anymore, and they're always featuring a record player. Just
Yeah.
about every show is featuring a record player
If they're
or
cool.
some kind. Yeah,
Super Bowl, Pepsi
Yeah.
was a record.
yeah. So it's starting to become the norm to see that, and it's good to have that promoted. And I know a lot of people will buy a physical thing even though they don't have a record player. I
Yeah.
did that for a long time. I didn't have a CD player. I bought a CD.
Yep.
But you just want to know what's going on. I am always interested, and I might be outside of the norm because I make music, I produce, I engineer, I record, I've been on records. I want to know who's playing on
Right.
what.
The
And that-
liner notes. That's
liner
part
notes.
of the best. That's the best part. To
And
them.
without a physical copy, that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And it is a bummer when you get an old record from the '60s before they started doing
Yep.
that, so you don't know who played on that. Who's the drummer on this item? It's a Donovan record. It's got oh geez, what song is it? Hurdy Gurdy Man, or just Hurdy Gurdy. Maybe that's it. Maybe Hurdy Gurdy Man is Beastie Boys. But anyway, the drummer is just so good, and everyone was saying it's John Bonham, but you have to look online. Thankfully, we have Line now. We can look.
Right.
It is not him, but that's the thing. Is like it was always a mystery back in the day, because it didn't matter who did it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you DJ too,
Mm.
and you only use vinyl when you DJ, correct?
That is correct.
Why?
I find it hard to find songs in a computer because of the artwork. I miss flipping through and finding a record by a visual. And I do have a computer, and I have DJ'd that way. And I also find that DJing with a computer, you tend to get really stagnant because you can DJ by BPM, beats per minute. So you can get every song at 120 beats per minute, and you can just line them up. You can beat match really easily, and after a while, the songs are good, but I feel like it does something to you as a listener, or not even if you're not even actively listening, it does something to you because you're getting hit with the same tempo. You're sitting at the bar, you drink, it's like, when is this gonna stop? Have you even heard a second song? You've been here for 3 hours. So yeah, I love the vinyl too, because it also has, old vinyl has scratches and weirdness, warped. A warped record might sound bad, but might like really fire your imagination, especially if it's a long synthy kind of pad and there's a warp in it. It gets kind of wobbly. You're like, man, that's kind of bad, but kind of neat at the same time.
Yeah.
I'll say one more thing about vinyl imperfections, and it's scratches. Like I remember my parents' record, they had Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? But there's all along the Watchtower, there's a particular skip that I miss when I hear that song. And every time this moment comes, if I'm hearing the song on the radio or whatever format it's on, I think of that skip.
That's cool.
And it's like it became part of the music.
That's very
so
cool.
that's what I love about vinyl. It's it's imperfect, and
It's human.
it's
It
human,
is.
yeah. And
analog,
digital,
human.
right?
It's-
You're not
yes.
going to get the same sonic quality. You're not going to get the same performance. Sometimes a record is a performance, especially if a DJ is playing. I'm not really into the scratch culture and that kind of thing. But I do appreciate there's some DJs who really do it tastefully and really do it well, and becomes a performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I miss the most about how the music industry has changed is the anticipation of one of your favorite bands putting out a record, and I used to mark it on my calendar, like
Yeah.
U2's record's coming out on November 6th, and 6 months earlier, you put it on your calendar and you count down the days, and that morning you get in your car like a half hour before the record store opens and you wait at the door. And
Yeah, because it might sell out,
Yeah,
and you got to get your copy.
yeah.
And also feeling the record and going,
Yeah.
oh, there's a 7-inch in here, or a poster.
Right.
Because you could do that, like.
Or being like, please have the lyrics, please have the lyrics.
Yeah.
Those were the days, man.
Yeah.
Days are back.
Yeah, the days are back.
And then
Thank you for bringing them back.
To make it a whole activity to invite all of your friends over to take that
Yes.
first listen and
Oh.
go through the artwork and pull out the liner notes and pass it around. And that's what you did and you would listen to the album 3 or 4 times that night. And instead you just get like one quick single and then you're over it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first started the label, and one of the first vinyl records we made was a 7-inch for this band, Middle Class Rut. And I was happened to be selling merch at one of their shows one night, and this kid came up to the merch table, and he was probably like 14 to 16, whatever, and he picks up the 7-inch. It's like, I'll take this, but it's, it's in a little sleeve, so he buys it, and then he pulls it out of the sleeve, and he's like, wait a minute, what is this? I've never
wrong with this
seen one
CD?
before. Yeah,
I had an
this CD
experience.
looks weird.
I was DJing once, and someone came up to me and said, "Oh, that's so cute. You're playing those little records." All right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't fit in my CD player. I need to.
Yeah.
But that's what's driving the growth in vinyl is the teenagers. And I have a 16-year-old daughter, and her, she's oh, it's cool. My dad works for vinyl, and has a little hoodie she wears with the name of the company. She's like,
That's awesome.
all my friends have turntable. They all got turntables for Christmas, and
Yeah.
that's
a good
that's
sign.
really what's driving. Yeah, and coming back to like corporate or whatever, but that's how you evaluate trends and how you evaluate and to me, I'm so excited that something I'm passionate, I love in terms of music and musicians, like there's something that's so ripe, it's like if you took away the name vinyl from this and you took all the data and information about what's going on and you looked at it, you'd be like, oh my God, this is the next internet or whatever.
Yeah.
Like people would be so excited about this category.
I mean, where do you see it going? How do you see it growing?
Vinyl's the future of music. Streaming's the
That's
future
very
of
strange
music.
to
Streaming is
I
the
love
future.
that
Sorry,
statement.
streaming is the future of music. Vinyl's the future of physical music.
Yeah.
And as soon as people get more turntables, as soon as the people that have CDs are buying it for portability or whatever, onboard everything onto streaming, that's going to go away. And as soon as artists are able to make a record in less than 6 months and sell it for $15, then once that happens, it's gonna CDs will go away and vinyl will be where it's at.
I can't wait till CDs go away. I've been trying to do away with CDs for years. I
have an interesting story about CD. So I was watching MTV and Pearl Jam. Eddie Vedder comes out first. This is like CDs first came out, and he's like, he pulls up the
Early
CD,
90s?
and he's like holding in his hand like this, and he's like opens it up, and he's like, I guess you have to buy this thing, this plastic, and he's like totally disgusted, like holding the CD, and he's like, I guess you have to buy the CD when this, because it was a intermediary between streaming and vinyl.
Yeah.
It was that sort of solving the problem of convenience and sort of solving the problem of physical.
Right.
And so that's.
Yeah. I never was a big fan of CDs though. And too much plastic. Enough with the plastic.
Yeah, I agree. And now it's just a wasteland of that because you go to any thrift store, everyone's getting rid of their record stores are selling them for next to nothing. And it's just a shame they got it made. But when that happened, record sales went through the roof.
Yeah.
Because people were buying records they already had, which was like a major, a major plus for people selling records because everyone's, gotta get the new thing.
1999 was the peak of the music industry.
Wow.
It was because of CDs. And then something happened in 1999. There was a company
Napster.
literally from the day Napster launched, it declined until 2015. In 2015, the started to climb again, the recording revenue.
And it was
because of streaming
Yeah.
and vinyl to a small point, but more so now.
Yeah.
It was really sad when that happened because it really was everyone just taking, and from everyone, even the big artists. And I remember, think what you will about Lars, but he was really adamant about going after
Yeah.
people stealing music, and it was for real. And it was so funny how, thinking back, oh, what's the problem? You're rich, but like,
No, it's not. That's not the point. I mean, I remember, I think it was Bono who made the point when all that was going down, where he said nobody would walk into a museum, look at a painting and say, you know what, I'm going to take that home, take it off the wall and walk out with it. And that's essentially what stealing music is doing. You know, it's just disrespectful to the artist.
yeah, well, yeah, because
And making that kind of art obsolete if you can't support it.
yeah.
Well, I read a book, something about, it was vinyl, I can't remember the name of it, but anyways, one quote that stuck with me is like, there's no such thing as music. There's only music experience. And so it's the experience. And so the experience of a live show is this, it's a music experience. Vinyl, it's an experience, and it's a multi-sensory, tangible, visceral experience. And that's why it's special. And so in music is because of streaming has become a less less visceral, less, it's a background. It's not even it's a single sensory experience. And so now with vinyl, you're like it's just a human visceral experience again.
Yeah.
And so live shows and vinyl, I think, are the
Well,
pinnacle.
And it gives it
of-
value too. I mean, I just feel like there's not enough value. The kids these days, you know,
Yeah.
they don't know the value of a song because
They will start knowing
They
it.
will.
I think there's a dark period, and now because of vinyl production and because there is no shortage of bands, that's why there's a shortage of vinyl production, because bands have grown. The number of bands has exploded. That's a whole other podcast. But,
More
and-
people are consuming music today than any time in the history of the world.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
not all good music.
That's true.
another podcast.
That's
too.
another,
another one.
yeah, but it
But
could be.
What do you think, though, the biggest challenges are for what you're doing?
It's hard. It's really hard, and it's expensive. And like, this is the first time we're doing a startup. I've been in corporate America where I just go to the guys and I give them a plan. They're like, "That sounds good. Here's some money," and it costs money to build a pressing plant. It costs money to develop what we're doing, but I don't know. I think that's the only hard part, and that's not even that hard. It's just money, and money's easy. It's easy to get money in the sense of like it's just money. It's not.
That's
hard.
for us,
Yeah.
not for the
Yeah,
vinyl
it's-
industry. But for the vinyl industry, I'd say there's a lot of things. If you're an independent band and you want to put out something on vinyl, first of all, if you didn't realize it takes 4 to 6 months, and there was a time 2 years ago it was 8 months.
Yeah.
You're not planning that far in advance. You're recording your next album at that point. So that was like a major barrier right there. And now that there's enough capacity, just a little bit more capacity, I should say, this year, now it's maybe 4 to 6 months to get a record pressed. And then there's figuring out the process. And if you go on any record pressing company's website, you can't just like look up a price on your own. You have to like call someone or fax in an order. Like, who uses fax machines anymore other than the government?
My dad does.
And so it's just really daunting. And if you don't have a big management team handling it for you and figuring out your production schedule and how that's going to line up with your tour and then shipping your records to every city, that's just a big barrier to entry. And so what we at Second Line are doing we're developing a lot of new technology on a lot of sides, on the artist side as well as on the vendor side and the supplier side. For the artists, we're just trying to make it easy for you to get a simple quote online like you could do when you're printing posters. And you could play with like what it's like to get liner notes or not get liner notes without having to call someone and waste 2 hours of their time and feeling like a jerk for taking up this person's time.
Right.
And then on the back end for the manufacturing plants, like some of the top plants in the world like have a chalkboard or like a magnetic dot that they move over to track where they are in production. And it just slows down the whole process. And there's so many ways to make a mistake, from the masters getting submitted for lacquers to plates to actually getting to the press and the jackets being like everything in that package. There's so many chances to make an error, and you should reduce that and technology is such a quick tool to
Right.
enable the vinyl to happen, and that's what we're really excited about.
I mean, I'm actually interested in, you know, your revolutionary technology. Can you say more about that, or is it a secret?
Secret, not every signed NDA.
Yeah.
It's not secret. It's like every other category is using it, and they've been using it for 30 years. And the fact, creating a system for creating connectivity to the vendors and to the manufacturers and to the purchasers of it, everybody does that. I mean, Amazon. And then creating transparency to the people purchasing it. Like you as a label should be able to go, oh, we have 4 projects in the queue. Let me go see what status they are. I mean, you can do that with your toilet paper order at Amazon.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you do that with your $5,000 vinyl order?
Very good question.
So it's not difficult. It just needs to be done, and we're doing it.
Right.
So for us, but it's not an easy process. It's complicated. Like if you see on this table, there's multiple pieces that are involved in the step.
Pellets.
And to me, it's a, when I learned about this product, I didn't know anything about vinyl, and now I'm like one of the probably top 1% experts in the world.
That's
after 3 years.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's sad, but I mean, there should be more people, and there will be, but yeah. So and to me, and I was like, oh, it'd be a cool movie to show this community that made a record.
Yeah.
So
that would be a great documentary.
We
We should do that.
We have someone who's been shooting it.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
But from the conception, from the artist performing at the, somewhere, and then we, following that through the whole step to the mixing and the mastering and the lacquer cutting and the plating and the pressing and the packaging and the person listening to it turn.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, you obviously make records with your band, Rogue Wave.
Yes.
What's your experience been, and how do you think Second Line might excite you?
It would be nice to have to be able to have contact with your pressing plant, and I mean we've made records and had major problems with them. We've made records that didn't have any problems, but when you have a problem, that's when it's like obviously the worst. That's the one you're going to remember. We have a record that came out that I still can't listen to on vinyl because I think the needle skips no matter, because there's a frequency problem.
Wow.
And that didn't get caught, and it got pressed, and it's out there, and like there's nothing we can do about it. And it's and then we got one time
but
where
there's like the people listening to that are having the same experience you were just talking about
Sorry.
earlier. Like, no, they're like, oh, every time I hear that song, I feel nostalgic for that little glitch.
Yeah, that bit of distortion that really blows my speakers or something like that. But I mean, that's the thing, is there's so much that goes into making vinyl. But like as far as
yeah, it really is an art.
It would be nice to have direct contact or quicker contact and be able to really, whether you're calling or you can bring something up online and you can look at what's going on with your order. But the whole sound quality of a record, like what I was just describing, issues with the pressing and stuff like that you sometimes can't find until after it's done, which is
right.
Well,
sound quality, I think, is a cool topic to talk about. I mean, how do you feel that vinyl sounds different? I mean, we all know it does, but
I would equate it to, if I may jump in real quick,
please.
and this might apply to everybody, but it might apply to boys. It's like.
Did you say boys?
Boys.
Okay, I'm a boy.
I am too, and not that I do this, but you might really love Victoria's Secret's catalogs or the JCPenney's underwear section. That might really do it for you. And then there's these other magazines that give you everything. That's digital. Gives you everything. It leaves nothing to the imagination. These ones will leave something to the imagination. It's a little more human.
Yeah.
That is vinyl.
I think that's a good description.
Well, it's scientific too.
I'm trying to think
Not
of
that
one.
I look at any
I'm
of
trying
us.
to think of one as a girl that I could. Do you have anything
sorry.
there? But sorry, yeah, you were saying.
No, I want to hear this girl thing.
I need a few more margaritas.
Okay, so we got one more here.
Yeah, I don't even want to attempt to even try to go that direction. But it's just you have less information coming at
actually,
you.
for girls, because I have 3 and actually 4 with a wife and mother and 2 sisters.
Wow, you're surrounded.
Yeah, no, I don't even know what I'm glad I have a boy. Wouldn't know what to do. But it's all, and Liz is, we hang out a lot.
Work wife.
Yes. I think women prefer to have a guy that's clothed versus completely naked, like in terms of, well,
now this conversation's getting good.
So in my experience and opinion, not, there's degrees of that. Like for guys, we're there's a larger spectrum of guys that like the Everything magazine.
Yes.
Where I think girls are the opposite in my experience in terms of let's have a little bit of
I'm just going to say that
mystery
I think that we can attribute that to women having very creative imaginations. I think we're just more creative and we like to use our imaginations more, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
I guess for me it's not really a guy-girl analogy. I'm going to leave that.
Good. Break away from that.
But
I don't know, that sounded like a fun tangent, but okay. One more, drink it fast.
I was going to say it's more kind of the Ikea culture. Like if you buy into that, that's your digital culture. But if you're like that person who goes to the thrift store and like wants that one of a kind piece, I don't care if it's a little worn, that just means it's more charming. And you don't want to like walk into someone's house and see them having the same living room as you.
Right.
Like you're more of a vinyl person probably.
I think that's a really great analogy.
Yeah. And stuff isn't disposable to you. You want to like hang on to something for the next generation to pass on to them. Like if you're that type of person, vinyl is your medium.
I think you're right about that. I like that analogy a lot.
Male or female.
Yeah. Plus I just think that vinyl sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and there's no, like, I don't have any
reason.
Proven
biologically, humans have a certain range of frequency in which you hear naturally, and you can only do 16 kilohertz on these things. There's a finite range, and so you're not creating this block of loud sound that we've attributed in the last 10 years of like, if it's loud, it's good. Where here, there's actually a volume knob that you can use to turn up the sound, and you can hear all the different elements of that sound because it's in this analog wave in this frequency. And so you use the actual knob, and I'm not an engineer in music at all, but you can turn it up and listen to it, or turn it, you can hear everything.
The only time that becomes a problem is when you're DJing, you got the next song coming up and it's way too quiet. You've got all the volumes just cranked all the way. Kinks records, the Kinks. I would think, God, why don't they remaster all the Kinks records? Because they're always quiet. But I think there's something to that. They're not mastered where the VU meter is pegged or close to it, where every single sound, and this also has to do with compression, and this is another podcast, but it seems like anymore we're getting dense recordings, everything pegged, so you're getting this just barrage of sound with no relief.
Yeah.
That's a generalization. There's plenty of
digital. There's digital fatigue, and they actually scientifically proven that listening to digital music is fatiguing for humans.
Plus, earbuds are bad for you. My audiologist, there we go. These need to go away. We're now in a time where everyone.
Why are they bad?
Because you're putting music right into your ears. I remember when I was a kid, it would be I can hear your music through your headphones,
but
your foamy.
They were foam.
But now we're putting music directly into our ears with earbuds, and that's just bad for your ears.
I know I'm probably going to be deaf when I'm 60.
What?
The technology will advance, they'll be able to fix that.
I hope so. I really hope so, because I can't imagine life without music. It's interesting. This might be TMI too, but I recently.
What else was TMI?
We didn't get to it because somebody derailed that conversation.
Sorry.
But no, it's good. It's good. I recently went on a therapist-guided psychedelic journey, and afterwards, I found that when I listen to music, particularly on vinyl, I can hear all the parts better. It's like I was listening to Rumors recently, and the guitars on Go Your Own Way, like there's 3 of them in that song, which I never noticed before. And now I can hear them.
Oh yeah, that has that real chimey acoustic guitar that's just really blasting that dun, 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 dun. Yeah. I agree.
Anyway, vinyl. I wouldn't have noticed that had it not been for vinyl.
Total side note with that, Rogue Wave was recording a record, and my brother called me one time and he was asking me, how's it going? I was like, well, we're still working. We're about 4 months at this studio in Oxford, Mississippi. It was an awesome getaway.
I'm dying to go to Oxford.
You just went there. I thought you just went to the studio and played, and it was done. Like, well, this one was exceptionally
Kind of.
long. That was a major production. That record, and it was a lot of fun making it. But
What studio did you work in Oxford?
oh, it's not there anymore.
Oh, that's a bummer.
We worked with the producer was Dennis Herring, who now lives in L.A., but I can't remember the name of the studio. It was right in between. It was like we were there so long. We saw spring happen, summer break, and then students came back.
Wow.
And we even went to a football game because it was
Wow.
really cheap. But like there were always a parade of people going to the football game and from going past the studio.
I really want to go to Oxford, Mississippi.
It's really cool. So that was, what was I going to say about that? What did I say about that?
I don't know. What was
I
he
don't remember.
saying?
You spent 4 months recording there.
Oh yeah, and my brother would say, I thought you just
Oh.
played the music. But then some people
it takes
do
so
go
long.
and just play the music and it's done, or that's the way it was with 2-track recording. You put your band in the room and someone was an expert with the room. And they knew exactly where to put everyone. That doesn't exist anymore. That's another podcast.
Yeah.
But that doesn't exist. You can do you can do a major production in your bedroom. You don't need a specially tuned room with musicians who are capable and know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of bums me out too. Because, people can make music in their bedroom, but
At the end of the day, if it's good, it's good.
yeah, it is.
Whatever you record it on, whatever you put it on, vinyl or whatever.
Yeah, I'm moving my water for a second because I forgot about these jars that you guys brought. That
They brought jam.
you brought
make
vinyl
jams.
jam. Can you tell us about what is in these jars and also describe it for people who aren't watching this but listening to it? I'm gonna just pour it in here.
Yeah.
Just
You can make the sound. Hold it next to your microphone.
Yeah.
There's one record.
this is one whole record right here, right? Vinyl pellets, but you want to
Put
describe
this
that's
one
a-
too, because we have a
This is a
black
jar,
background. Use this one.
and I was in Detroit. Jack White built a pressing plant in Detroit. Super cool, beautiful plant. And he labeled these vinyl seeds.
Oh,
So
I love
which I love that
that
term. Is like these are the seeds.
job, Jack.
These are the little plastic, TPC plastic pellets that go through an extruder to get molded into a puck of vinyl that gets smashed onto the grooves of the record. So this is the beginning. This is where the source of the material.
It's like vinyl sperm.
Yeah, so this is the vinyl sperm, and then this here is the
It's the baby.
no, it's the ovaries.
Oh.
Right?
Oh
Is that
yeah.
where babies are born?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Uterus.
Uterus. Sorry, uterus. Yeah.
Let's go back to the male-female
Yeah.
thing for a second.
Close.
This in terms of, I guess we're going that way. Yeah, this is the uterus of the vinyl making, and this is this. There we go. We
Yeah.
can call these vinyl sperm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if I like this as our brand here.
How about vinyl jizz?
Just yeah.
Ooh, almost spooge.
So this, and so as my wife says, I didn't make a baby, she did, and so this
Yeah.
is what
the
makes
mom,
the
for
this
sure.
is what makes the record.
That's beautiful too.
Yeah, this is the
Daddy got margarita on it.
Yeah, what's on that record?
this specific record. That's a good question.
Can you describe like what it's made out of and what
So
it looks
yeah,
like?
so this what I'm holding is a stamper. This is the it's the negative of a vinyl groove. So if you were to look at this in a microscope, you'd see the grooves are sticking up. And so this is what is put into a press and heated up through hot steam and then extreme pressure to fill all those little grooves with that molten vinyl material and cooled to harden and create a record. So this is made out of a nickel. So actually the step before that is this guy here. So we're holding up a lacquer, which is basically a flat aluminum disc that's coated with a lacquer material. It's kind of like nail polish almost. And then you have a specialized engineer that has this $100,000 lathe to carve the groove into it. And so you have, this is really the beginning of it. That's the first, it's electronic pulse that creates the vibration of the up and down, horizontal and vertical cut, and it cuts that analog wave. And it's crazy, like I don't see how it works, but that they invented vinyl records. They invented physical music because they wanted to hear in 1800s they want to see what sound looked like. And so they created a vibration, and they're trying to carve or to etch that vibration into an image that they can see and say, oh, that's what sound is. And then through that process, they figured out, they said, oh, what if we vibrate it back and then amplify that? Oh, we just created sound. And then
the sound of his master's voice.
So that was like the creation of a physical product.
Yeah, so this is a miracle, magic, science, whatever. Not really.
Created a long time ago, because that feels to me like a 78, like a really heavy 78 record.
Yeah.
And is that
well, in the first records, they carved them into shellac. It's like a beetle byproduct of dung, something, whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're very heavy, thick, brittle, things. And they invented plastic, and they're like, oh, that works better. And
you're not going to break your needle every record.
Yeah. You thought they scratched and So that's how records are made. And it's every time. I remember the first time we ran our machine in Oakland and testing the machine, and this record here came out, and it was just, you're just looking at it going, holy shit, I just made music on a plastic pellet, the jizz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And and that's, and it's like when you see a baby born, like, holy shit, how did that happen?
Right.
I don't know.
And then you send it out into the world and hope everyone loves it.
Yeah.
And that's what we all do every day, right?
Skipper.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was really amazing. Thank you for the education you gave us today, and for sharing your passion and heart with us. You too, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciated talking to you guys today, and really appreciate Sweetwater for allowing us to hang out here and talk in their beautiful space. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll be back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
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 Cheers. Cheers.
Be sure to check out our next podcast. Bright Antenna Records' own Tiffanie DeBartolo will be talking about the graphic novel she wrote, Grace, the Jeff Buckley story. Artists like Wayne Kramer from the MC5, Kyle Nicolaitis, and Pat Spurgeon from Rogue Wave will be performing a musical tribute to Jeff, and Tiffanie will be talking with a very special guest, Mary Goubert, Jeff's mom. You won't want to miss this one, so be sure to follow Bright Antenna Records on YouTube and Cocktails with Bright Antenna on your favorite podcast network. Thanks again for listening. Till next time, this has been Cocktails with Bright Antenna.